So as promised, here's a breakdown of this post. So are you stuck? Do you feel like you're stuck at your same pace? You've been trying to go faster, but something doesn't feel right. Maybe it's your hips. Let's go back to the propulsion phase, the engine. How we move forward, ideally, is the leg on the ground pushes the ground back, pushes the earth back, and the result is we move forward. This is like the analogy, my favorite analogy of the canoe and the oar. In the water, all we have is a paddle or an oar. How we move forward is we put the paddle in the water and we push the water back. What do you notice? The faster that we go, the further that our leg extends behind us. Therefore, the greater the need or the necessity of hip extension. The 3 F's of running faster. First, you've got the force. We push the ground with more force. Then we push the ground further. This is the key, further back. And the frequency. We repeat this on a more frequent basis. So what if you've been having difficulty running faster? Maybe it's not your fault. There's 3 possibilities. 1, it could be technique, just the ability of learning the skill of pushing the ground back to move forward. Maybe you haven't learned that yet. Or maybe it's a mobility issue, some range of motion issue that you're missing. That's what we're going to explore here. Or maybe it's a strength issue is the reason why you're not able to run faster. Let's think of it this way. Imagine I have a shirt that's tucked in and too tight in the front. What movement is that going to restrict? Bending backwards, the opposite direction. So therefore, if you look at this creepy little head with legs, what does this remind you of? I can't get that little Toy Story creature out of my mind, but forget about that for a second. So we have the leg when it's moving in front of us is called flexion, and the leg when it's moving behind us, that's called extension. And so our hip flexors, they're the muscles in the front. Think the front of the shirt. And then our hip extenders, that's more the muscles in the back. So if I have a restriction of the hip flexors in the front, that can limit hip extension, pushing the ground back further. So therefore, what do? Let's keep it simple. We spend time in the restriction. We lengthen the tissues. We stretch the hip flexors by going passively into hip extension and holding it. 3 rounds of 30 seconds, keeping the muscles as relaxed as possible to truly effectively lengthen. And we can't forget about the rectus femoris. One of the hip flexors is a two-joint muscle. It crosses both the hip and the knee. So therefore, to fully lengthen, we need to make sure we're addressing it at both the hip and the knee. To do so, we have to make sure that our knee is also bent into knee flexion because the muscle extends the knee, and then going into that hip extension because the muscle flexes the hip. Now, if you're not sure if this is you, if you're not sure that you're restricted, there's a simple test that you can do. Taking a broomstick or a ruler or a stick, measure the distance between the ground and the bottom of your kneecap. Next, you're going to stand that distance away from the wall. From there, placing the stick along your back, see can you tap the heel against the wall without tilting or leaning forward or without the stick coming off of your back. This is a good screen to say, yes, you have enough range of motion that you need, that maybe it's not a mobility issue. If you can't do this, if you fail this screen, then spend some time working on lengthening your psoas, your hip flexors, and your rectus femoris. Hope this helps. Any questions? Let me know.